This morning's breath practice we worked on was couple of body breath. And couple of body breath, I chose that for a couple of really fantastic reasons. Couple of body breath, it builds the fire in your abdomen. And so the idea of building the fire within your abdomen is the heat and the fire is helping us get rid of and burn off that which we no longer need, right? So it's enhancing all of the things we've talked about in our breath work of helping us create that emptiness or that vast space to move in and grow. And so when we're pumping our belly, we're creating extra heat in our body, and that allows that to burn off the things that no longer serve us. So that's one reason. And then also the second reason to go further along with that, the same thing we talked about with our 3-chamber breath a few days ago, is when we're focusing our breath in that one area, that's clearing that whole one area and allowing more breath to grow into that area. But also at the end of the section this morning, I had mentioned to notice how your body feels, the sensations in your body. And one thing you may have noticed was you might have had like some kind of a tingling vibration in your head, or you might have had like a lightheaded feeling a little bit. You might have noticed your body kind of swaying or moving. The second name, or another name for couple of body breath, is skull shining breath. And the reason why it's called skull shining is because of the way you expel all of that breath. It kind of leaves you feeling a little bit lightheaded, because we've gotten rid of more breath than we have intaken, right? So if you notice when I talk about the 4-part breath, I'm always talking about having your inhale and your exhale equal in length. And the reason that is so that you can evenly regulate that breath out, and so that you feel a neutral feeling in your body. Whereas if you exhale more than you inhale, then you're getting rid of more than what you're taking in. That's going to cause a lightheaded feeling in your head, or that skull shining feeling, like that vibrant feeling at the top of your head, and your body just kind of sways and moves with it. And so the other thing that you may have noticed practicing your couple of body breath this morning is the idea that every time we moved through it, we did 5 cycles approximately. And every time we moved through it, you might have noticed that your exhalation was shorter and a little bit shorter. And that's because by that point, you've really not taken in as much breath as you've gotten out. And with more practice of the couple of body breath, you will be able to do more and keep them more evenly regulated. And so that one is a really great one, because we really get to expel and create fire in our body to burn more things, and that leaves us a lot of extra space to grow into. Find where our grace is and move into that grace. So I want to connect that with doing core work in class, because doing core work in class, we're igniting our body, right? We want to build on that fire. And if you go back a couple of days, we did 4-part breath into Ujjayi breath and then golden flame breath. These are also very hot breaths, right? The golden flame and the Ujjayi breath, those start to build the fire in your body, and they engage your core. And so this is something to bring into your mat practice, is this heat that you're building in your body and connecting it to your core, because the two are directly related. And tomorrow when we look at flowing through poses, I'll show another aspect of how breath and movement are related. We looked at it earlier when we were looking at the classical sun salutation. And so in particular, I want to look at plank pose and engaging our core with our breath in a plank pose to create a powerful posture. And plank is a posture we do in every single practice because it's a part of the sun salutation. So you might not do it separate as its own posture, but you will, in every single practice, but you will definitely come into plank throughout practice when you do the sun salutations. So, a full plank pose should be a pose of power, where our entire body is engaged. So in my position right now, this is a fully engaged plank position. And if I was in class right now, I'd ask a student to come by and try to push me over and see how powerful I was. I'm going to show you this in comparison to what is often seen by a yoga teacher in class, and that's this. Droopy body because I'm hanging out in my shoulders. I'm not engaging my core in any way, and you can tell that because everything's just hanging. And when I do that, I really stress out my neck, I stress out my shoulders, and I overexhaust my body to a point where I will not be able to maintain a proper flow of breath. The other thing that you see people do who are trying to keep their core engaged is they have their bums up, right? Because they're trying to hold their belly in, so they're kind of curling their spine and holding their bum up. That one's a little bit better because you are using your muscles, but you're not evenly distributing your body and allowing that spine to lengthen and open. So before we come back into a plank, I want to call your attention to a mountain pose, right? In mountain pose, our feet are hip distanced apart, so that's 2 fists between our ankles, so that our hips, our knees, and our ankles are all in line. This allows my hips to be open. You can see they're not, if I'm bringing them inward toward each other, my hips start to curl in. If my hips are open, as I talked about already when we looked at our twist class, then my shoulders can stay open. If my hips and my shoulders are open, then my spine can lengthen. Sorry, Dee's in the background rolling around, making a little bit of noise. She likes to be noticed. So now my spine can lengthen. When I'm in this position, and if I extend my arms out with my palms out and fingers spread, this is what my plank should look like. My rib cage is lifted, so my shoulders are open, so I have that room in my chest for my lungs to have full optimal capacity. I can now engage my core, keep my hips stable, and hold a solid plank position where my body weight is evenly distributed. The one thing that we need to keep in mind is when we think core, a lot of people just think it's your belly, your abs, but your core is from your thigh muscle all the way to your rib cage, all the way around. So that includes all of your torso and your legs. So we need to keep those fully engaged in this posture. So when I take my plank position, just like in mountain, I want my feet about hip distance apart and parallel so that my hips can be in line with my ankles and they can be open. You can see as soon as I walk my feet in together, my bum starts to come up. If I walk my feet further apart, my bum starts to sag in, right? So that's why hip distance apart is optimal for that reason. You want to make sure that your feet and your hands are far enough away from each other so that you can be high on your toes with your heels pointing up. This way I can keep my legs active. Palms are flat, fingers spread, shoulder blades draw in and pull down the spine so that rib cage is lifted. And then finally, I want to draw my belly up toward my spine to kind of stabilize the position. Now, if this is too much for you, I know most of the time I do not practice a full plank because it is tiring. We want to come into a modified plank, right? So it's the same position, but our knees are down. However, oftentimes people do this. And as soon as I do that, you can see my hips kind of just come forward. When they come forward like this, now I'm not engaged anymore and I'm hanging out in my shoulders again. Or you see this. And this is also not a modified plank. So we need to keep our toes tucked so that the lower part of our core, our thighs and our hips can stay engaged in the position. And then again, if that's too much for you in a practice, Then you come into a nice tabletop position. Tabletop position is going to help your core develop to be able to hold the strong plank position. Again, we want to keep our body weight evenly distributed. So I need to have my toes tucked under. As soon as I let my toes come out, notice what happens with my hips. Toes are tucked under, everything is nicely engaged. As soon as I release that down, I can still be engaged at the top part, but not the bottom part. My hips round out. So making sure that your toes are tucked in, you're rooting through your feet, palms flat, fingers spread, shoulder blades draw in and pull down your spine, and abdomen pulls up towards your belly. And out through the crown of your head. And then we want to remember, as we're in these positions, in order to keep the core engaged, we need to keep our breath. If we have the right alignment and muscle engagement, then we should be able to maintain a smooth, even flow of Ujjayi breath. Thanks for joining me for this portion, and I will see you tomorrow morning where we'll work on Rastrika breath.